Galamera, Galamera, Galamera. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I thought I'd start the broadcast from outside this morning. I don't think you've seen the skies on my podcast for a few days, or just how beautiful things are, despite the ground looking just, shall we say, slightly parched, because obviously we're having the heat wave still, and there is still a fire risk at the moment here on Zakynthos. And we have had fires yesterday, and I'll be talking about those a little bit more detail in the main news. But there you go. There's a quick look at the real estate at the moment. It has got a bit of a breeze blowing. That means that fire risk is heightened with the breeze blowing because it just fans the flames. So once again, be aware there is a curfew into wooded areas from 6 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning. If you're caught in there, you could be accused of arson. Okay, and you must be very careful wherever you go. So stay out of these cordoned areas, stay on the main roads, don't try and go off the beaten trail, okay, because again, you could become an inadvertent fire risk. And even if you accidentally cause a fire, you are still technically classed as an arsonist in Greece, all right? So just bear that in mind. Last night then, absolutely awesome night last night in Magdalena's karaoke last night was mainly, shall we just say, all in Dutch, to be quite honest. I was looking back at the playlist yesterday from doing karaoke, and very few English or American British songs, shall we say. It was all Dutch yesterday. Andre's house, etc. But great night. People were lovely. The bit of video clip that I put up earlier in the evening, we just got busier and busier from that clip, and people behaved themselves terrifically last night. A credit, to be honest, after the kind of craziness and the youth club atmosphere that had been going on in previous days. I think the message is getting through. There are still restrictions in regards standing. I know people want to enjoy themselves, but we have to be very, very careful because at the moment we just don't want to fine, all right? And we don't want our guests to get fined either. So all in all, last night was fantastic. Just a heads up, tonight we got the lovely Danielle Rogers back as Amy Winehouse and also as Lady Gaga. So that's kicking off tonight. And then obviously karaoke from midnight till 2 straight after. Right then, let's get on with the news and what's been going on in the way of what's been happening. Just to let you know that today we've got 8 flights in from the UK. We also have 1 in from Dublin as well. Jane at the moment is down at the airport and is going to be down there till quite late this evening. So again, we're like ships in the night, just passing. I've got your list, my lovely, as well, of jobs to do. So it never ends. It never ends. But anyway, COVID in the last 24 hours, some interesting figures and stats coming through on COVID. New infections down slightly on the day before, was 3,625. New stats for today, 3,191 new infections across the country. That brings a total now to 554,055. Now, there were 19 new cases identified at ports into entry of the country. That was up on the day before, where there was 16. And then islands of interest to us. First of all, Mykonos, that we like to look at, because if we get lumped into something, it's normally because of what's happening in Mykonos. Well, at the moment, their infection rate rose from 27 to 28 on yesterday and 22 on the day before that. Rhodes, again, we always keep an eye on Rhodes as to what's going on there. They've had 81 new cases in the last 24 hours. Before that, they'd had 112, and before that, they'd had 100. So they are starting to drop down a bit, okay, on that island. On Lefkas, which is basically a next door neighbour to us in the Ionian, they've had quite a rise actually. They had 12 cases before, and then before that they had 24. Well, in the last 24 hours they've had 23 new cases on that island. When it comes to Corfu, who is our big cousin up the road, who again have not been put under any extra limitations or anything, despite their epidemiology being very interesting. They've had 61 new cases in the last 24 hours. Before that, they'd had 73, and before that, they'd had 62. When it comes to Catalonia, our neighbours across the road, literally, they've had quite an increase actually within the last 24 hours. Yesterday, I reported 6. Today, 19 new cases there on their prefecture. They had 12 the day before yesterday, 6 yesterday, and now today 19. Now, when it comes to home, Zakynthos, again, we've had an increase in infection rate. Yesterday, we had 8 new cases across the island, and today it is 14 new cases across the island. And the day before yesterday, we'd had 16, and the day before that, we'd had 25. So again, our epidemiology is technically going up and down, I think the best way to describe it. We're now at 14, where 8 was the day before. But remember, I'm always very curious as to where all these people are. But anyway, that is the epidemiology rate here on Zakynthos at the moment. Now, when it comes to deaths within the last 24 hours, we've had 23 new deaths across the country. One of those deaths, again, I'm going to report now. We've had another death here on Zakynthos, and I will come to that in more detail when I start the news. So again, the death toll now since the pandemic started is 13,351. Average age of those people, 79 years of age. 96.4% of them had underlying health conditions or were over the age of 70. And once again, the death rate is 23, which was down on 30 on my previous report. When it comes to ICUs at the moment, those numbers are going up, and it is of concern to the authorities that they are on the rise. 296 was the number yesterday. That has now risen up to 317, 191 male and 126 female. Again, the average age of people in ICUs at the moment is 67 years of age, and 83.5% of those have underlying health issues or are over the age of 70. Right, today's news then. First of all, an incident literally hot off the press this morning. A tragic incident happened late on Saturday night in Tsilivi. It seems a 12-year-old child was electrocuted. According to the reports, it happened late on Saturday night when the boy was playing with his friends, and he was found behind an air conditioning unit of a nearby hotel. Now, the unfortunate child was allegedly struck by electricity, and despite being transported to the hospital and the help of doctors, the lad actually passed away. Now, it's not been made clear whether this was a local boy or whether this was a tourist child. But it's interesting that the lad was found behind the air conditioning unit of a hotel or a nearby hotel. Obviously, the hotel has not been named. And again, it just highlights some of the dangers that are around. Please don't interfere with equipment. Don't go and play into stuff. Normally, health and safety are pretty strict. You might not believe that from some of the stories, but they are, because I know Jane used to do the job for health and safety here on Zakynthos a lot. And trust me, they can be really, really strict. So again, not too much information has come out about this tragic death. Hopefully there'll be more information coming. Also as well, can I just offer our sincere condolences to the family that are affected. Maybe within the next few hours, we might get a further update as to the identity of the boy, and obviously more on how he managed to be electrocuted as well. Also, again, I did say briefly that there'd been another death from COVID here on Zakynthos. This time a 77-year-old local man. Now, he contracted the coronavirus and was hospitalized, and was in a serious condition for the last 12 days in the ICU here on the island. Anyway, according to information from the hospital, the man was vaccinated. However, he had underlying diseases, received treatments, and was taking strong medication to treat them. And the effect of the vaccine was decreased. That's what the hospital is saying. Anyway, this is the second death within 24 hours. You may remember that a 44-year-old man passed away yesterday. So once again, our condolences to both those families for their loss at the moment. Moving on then, talking about the fires here on the island. A Pakistani man was arrested by the police and was being interrogated. That's the word that they've used. I think the polite word would be questioned, because he's been considered a suspect, or being considered as a suspect, for the fires that broke out yesterday in Argassi. Now, according to police sources, he was brought to the police station to investigate information that had existed. Meanwhile, the fire, which reached a breathing distance from houses, had been brought under control. So, yeah, a fire yesterday in Argassi. I'm going to come on to that in just a little bit more detail. But a person of interest, shall we say, has been reported and has been taken into custody by the police. Now, the fire that broke out in Argassi reached the courtyards of the first houses of villages. The fire, which burned mainly low vegetation, had an ally, this is the way they're reporting it, with the air because of the wind scale at 6 yesterday. Flames quickly spread and began to threaten houses into Argassi. Now, 2 houses were reportedly evacuated as a precaution. 27 firefighters rushed to the scene with 12 vehicles. 2 Canard firefighting aircraft. They're like the water bombing, bigger water bombing aircraft. They were employed. 2 air tractors, which I think are Ericsson helicopters. They're the ones that go down and suck the water up and then fly over as well. Plus as well, they also had ground forces, as they said, assisted by infantry volunteers. Basically, that's people on foot. Okay, and they were also very, very busy fighting the fire as well. Now, they were also using what they call aquafires. These are firefighting vehicles from the municipality. They're basically just massive water tankers, and they were rushed to that location as well. And in fact, 6 of them were rushed there to obviously stem the fire. And the fire was brought under control late last night. Obviously, the firefighting aircraft stop firefighting once it gets dark. Remember, it does get dark earlier now than it has done. We don't get long summer nights here in Zakynthos, that is for sure. So anyway, the fire, I would think at the moment, is still being dampened down, and basically a picket will be placed there just to keep an eye that it doesn't flare up again at some point. So once again, please, 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 can I just implore you, please be very careful with whatever you're doing with your naked flame, your barbecues, your picnics when you go somewhere, that you do not inadvertently cause a fire. And luckily, no homes were burned, although it was close, and no serious damage has been done at the moment, and that the flames didn't get completely out of control. Just to go on back to COVID again, the Greek government, through sources, had stated on Saturday that they are still going to be looking at the unvaccinated and taking measures against the unvaccinated, but this is probably going to happen sometime in the autumn. Anyway, Greek government sources reiterated on Saturday that the economic activity and the social life will not be suspended again in autumn if there is another boost. So in other words, they're going to keep the economy open. However, the essential means that as the weather cools and becomes wetter, the unvaccinated will not be able to enter the interiors of entertainment venues, indoor restaurants, cafes, bars, theatres, cinemas, as well as sports stadiums as well, opposed to the inoculated, who will be able to do so simply by displaying the relevant digital certificate and identity documents. Anyway, in comments on Sky TV on Saturday, a government spokesman, Yanis Orgu, said relevant announcements are expected on Tuesday. I think on Tuesday, the framework governing the pandemic and the functioning of the economy and society will be announced, he said. Anyway, he also stressed that we are not done with the pandemic. It is persistent and is not backing down, contrary to the stubbornness of those who interpret things in their own way. He said either these people will be vaccinated, so he's talking about people like myself, who interpret things in their own way. Listen, mate, the only thing I'm interpreting is my freedom of choice. If I want the vaccine, I'll have the vaccine. If I don't want to have the vaccine, I won't have the vaccine. If other people want to have it, that's their choice. By all means, go ahead and have it. Again, this rush to the vaccine asks a lot of questions, and we've already been proven now in some cases when you read some information that has been written, they're now saying by having the vaccine you are actually more likely to contract the virus because the virus has started to alter and change, and in some ways you are less likely to be able to fight it more successfully. So in some ways it has kind of turned that if you're vaccinated, you could actually in fact be more vulnerable than a person who's been unvaccinated. So again, we're going to wait and see what happens on Tuesday. But he then went on to say either these people will be vaccinated or they will get sick, endangering its society in its entirety, including those who are already vaccinated, and that is unfair. Now, those who've already been vaccinated, you've just answered your own question there. Why is it then the vaccine not working? All right. If this rush to get vaccinated, why are you insisting people have something which is probably not actually, maybe it will depend on the individual again, like choice. May work for some, may not work for others. But the point is this, to mandatory force people to vaccinate against their own will is morally wrong, morally wrong. If I suffer from asthma, if I had cancer and I refuse to have treatment, why is it I can refuse to not accept that treatment? Is it because you can't be bothered? All right, if he doesn't want it, leave him, go away. That should be the attitude with those people who don't want to be vaccinated. It should be your choice. And then interestingly, another story along the same lines came out as well today. A court in Kilkis, northern Greece, rejected an appeal on Saturday filed by an employee against her mandatory vaccination. I think this is somebody who is working in the medical field, although the article doesn't actually make that very clear. However, according to local media site edis.gr, the employee requested that the Kilkis court of the first instance temporarily suspend the application of the law regarding her mandatory vaccination at the facility where she works. Now, the worker submitted her request for exemption on the grounds of health. As I've said before, there are some people who can't have the vaccination because their bodies already are not able to take anything coming in. I remember a gentleman said to me, who wrote to me saying that a good friend of mine said to me that his son has not taken the vaccine because his son has a rare blood disorder, that even taking an aspirin for him could be fatal. So there are some people that can't have it. Anyway, going back to this story then, the worker submitted her request for exemption on the grounds of health, while also changing the law providing for mandatory vaccinations as unconstitutional. Now, the court rejected both the cited health reasons she provided, and she ruling that they were not covered by the relevant provisions of law, as well as the legal claim of the measures of unconstitutionality. Now, the court said the relevant provisions of the law do not bear any unconstitutionality, as the applicant unjustifiably invokes, as they protect the supreme legal good of health and life of all citizens especially vulnerable groups. Well, I'd say this. The lady who says she doesn't want the vaccine for health reasons is a vulnerable group. She might be an individual, but then again to say, well, we're going to help vulnerable groups, but you're not a big enough group to be vulnerable, so therefore we're not going to help you. It should be the individual at this point. It should be your choice to have it or your choice not to have it. And I'm going to keep banging on about this because I'm seeing the way the law is trying to be twisted. The law is trying to be changed to either shame people into having the vaccination, pressurize people into having it, or bribe people into having it, as they have done with their €350 credit on this, that and the other. Again, now it looks like the big stick's coming out now. We're going to beat you into having the vaccine. I wonder if it'll come to the point where they'll roll your sleeve up and they will inject you. I've got to refer now to Australia, to children being vaccinated, forcibly vaccinated in Australia. This is not getting into the mainstream media in the UK. Can I say thank you again to Sky Australia News for reporting some shocking pictures of people having to hand their children over in vaccination centres to be taken away and then vaccinated and then handed back. They've tried to ban the filming of this within those vaccination centres, but it's something like a utopia movie of absolute extremes when you hear the children crying and screaming for their parents who are confused, don't really understand what's going on. I cannot believe that parents would want to take their children, have them vaccinated with a vaccine at the moment, which we do not know the full extent of what is going to happen with it, and hand your children over, children distressed, and then people who then decide at the last minute that, do you know what, I don't want to put my child through this, and then they try and take the child back to then leave the centre and they're arrested by the police. It is shocking. Please go and check out these video clips on Australia Sky. Also Alex Belfield as well. He's also put out clips as well of these inoculation clinics in Australia that are now inoculating children as young as 4 for the virus. Go and check that out, please, because again, it is absolutely shocking. Right, and now a bit of happy news then. Just to remind you, at the moment, as you know, we've got high temperatures. And at the moment, it's been reported that these high temperatures are being really good for the jellyfish here in Greece. And it seems to be in the favour of their reproduction. Also, again, according to the report, overfishing as well has also meant that a lot of the natural enemies of jellyfish, they have boosted their population because they're just not getting eaten. However, the turtles do like jellyfish. That's one of the reasons why we stop people putting plastic bags in the sea, because the turtles can confuse them for jellyfish. So again, the turtles should actually be getting a nice good feed at the moment this time of year. But meanwhile, scientists say that the appearance of a harmless but annoying marine snot or mulguy, also known as sea snot in the northern centre of the Aegean, is also causing a little bit of head scratching to go on here in Greece. It's supposedly completely harmless. It just looks very unsightly. Now, I don't think that's interfering with the jellyfish at the moment. But anyway, the turtles should be getting a nice good feed. And again, just be careful when you're out and about. I do remember when I first went to live in Cyprus in the late 1970s, all of the stories of jellyfish and the dangers of jellyfish in the sea, and how that seems to have abated over the past 40 odd years, and you don't see jellyfish like you used to. But trust me, they are still there. Also as well, just to note, if my broadcast doesn't go off sort of before 11 o'clock tomorrow, if you suddenly hear what sounds like gunfire, bells ringing, fireworks even going off, and bangers and thunder flashes and horns and foghorns going off, it's because St. Denis is coming out of his little reliquary, ready for his celebrations that are going to take place over the coming week. Normally, we'd be looking forward to the big market. That is not going to happen. We're not sure what's going to happen in reference to how they're going to handle St. Dennis's sort of standing in state, where normally you could go and kiss his slipper. He gets a new pair of slippers every year. And just a little tip for you, his old slippers are then cut into very tiny little slithers of silver, and you can get those from the bookshop in St. Dennis's Cathedral. The what do you call it? Bookshop deals with I can't remember. There's a special word for it, but books of religious bookshop. That's in the actual thing, and ask them very nicely, and they will give you a piece of his slipper for free. Believe it or not. And I gave one to my mum and one to my father, and my dad actually had a piece of St. Dennis's slipper when he died, and was cremated with him. So once again, we're not sure what's going to happen. One thing is sure, though, that if he does go and lie in state, and you can go and kiss his slipper, you must dress respectfully when you go in. I know that a lot of the Polish are very, very good at this, because a lot of the Polish are very God-fearing people. They still like to go to church on a Sunday, into the Catholic Church in St. Marco's Square. There are church services, Catholic church services on a Sunday there, and they normally understand the decorum for such a place. Please, no bikinis, swimming costumes, Speedo briefs when you go to see St. Dennis. If you do decide to go see St. Dennis, just have a bit of common sense. It is other people's religious beliefs. You certainly wouldn't go into a mosque dressed like that. That is for sure. All right. So please treat the church, the cathedral, in the same respect. All right. But anyway, we'll keep our ear to the ground. Also, just remember that also on Monday, you may find the banks are closed. Public offices will be shut as well. And the resorts normally don't get affected at all. They're still turning and burning, but you may find the supermarkets, etc., closed. But again, if anybody knows if the supermarkets are going to be closed, like the Lidl, the A&B, etc., like that, just give us a shout. And obviously, we can warn people just to hang on for a couple of days. You don't need to go until after it's all over, which should be by Wednesday, when he goes back into his reliquary, ready for December when he comes out on his birthday. Right. Excuse me. That's it from me. Can I just thank all those people that are tuning in at the moment? Can I thank those people who've been sending me messages of support as well? The voice is getting better. I did actually sing 2 songs last night, badly, but it was a start. And thank you for those people who joined in last night. Great night last night at Magdalena's, and we were busy. And also, don't forget, tonight we have got our live tribute act, the lovely Danielle Rogers as Lady Gaga and as Amy Winehouse. And once again, come and join us tonight, 10 o'clock, for our totally legal, people paying by the rules, people paying their taxes and having the right paperwork to work. Come and join them tonight. Hear the lovely lady who works so hard to keep everything above board and legal as far as entertainment is concerned. I'm not going to say anything about the others. They do what they do, and we do what we do. But ours is all 100% above board and legal. So once again, come and join us tonight at Magdalena's. I look forward to your presence and karaoke later on tonight. See if we have any more British singers rather than the Dutch, the Danish, Romanians as well last night. But again, we're very international in Magdalena's these days, and I'll see you soon. Anyway, I'll keep my ear to the ground. You have a great day, and have a good one. Ta-ra.